everybody. Nice to see you today. Hopefully you can see me today. I'm going to do a video today that will put my life in danger. I'm going to talk about my darling bride of will soon to be in our 60th year of wedded bliss. So bear with me. This might be the last time you see me alive. But anyway, sitting out here, you can see in the background behind this great big chunks of a hickory tree that went both directions. So that's kind of one of the things that we've suffered damage. Behind the camera is the half of the Bradford pear tree that my wife thought was her prize tree. She was happy about it, but it'll survive, I do believe. But anyway, talking about my darling bride, I'm going to touch on her firefighting abilities and on her motorcycle riding abilities today. First would be the firefighting. I've been involved in volunteer fire departments for a lot of years, have been. And anyway, my wife decided that she would like to become a Illinois certified firefighter like I am, or was. And so she started the schooling. Well, so did our son too. He was still in high school, but anyway, our son was started the training through the junior college and our community college, and started training, and my wife started training, and she didn't want to be the only woman in there, so she got two others to join in, and they started their training. It was 2 years to get the full regimen of training. Our son actually graduated from junior college with his emergency services degree before he graduated from high school. But my darling bride, she also graduated too, and she got to graduate at the same time he did. So that was kind of neat. But she took her Illinois certification test, and she passed it with flying colors, which made her one of the first women firefighters, certified firefighters in the state of Illinois, which is pretty good. But she was involved in the fire department. I got to take her into her first major fire. We were called in as a mutual aid to another town, and anyway, the bar was on fire, and two-story building. So we got an 1.5-inch hose, and her and I entered the building. The other fire departments were fighting it from the second story and at the back. Well, anyway, we got in there, had to get down on our hands and knees. We crawled behind the bar, and there were bottles breaking and everything, and we were in there, attacking the fire from the inside, and until our air packs decided that the bells were starting to ring and time to come out. So we came out and got out and had our self-contained mask off, and newspaper reporter got a picture of the lady firefighter. And in the background, here's this old, well, I wasn't an old man then, but here I am looking at back at this building. And the puzzling thing about it was there was a fire in the basement, there was a fire in the main floor, and there was a fire on the second floor. And there were no really visible means of communication between all of them. And so I think the fire investigators decided that somebody had built a fire in all three locations, and hoped that it'd be all in the basement. But you know, you set fire to your own building, as long as you don't claim insurance, there's no fraud to it. So anyway, but that was the first time in, and she was involved in the fire department. She worked several other structure fires, and you know, and training fires, and she just, I think she kind of enjoyed it. And when we went back to college, when she joined the township fire department there, and did really good. One of the things that the fire chief said that the police department's getting kind of upset because it appears that people that are driving, firefighters that are driving the big trucks aren't licensed with high enough certification to drive those trucks. So he went around looking at everybody's driver's license to see what their certification was. And so they got to her, and he walked on by, and she kind of, I meant a little indignant, said, "Why didn't you look at mine?" So he came back and he looked at her driver's license, and she was licensed to drive anything in the state of Illinois, with the exception of school buses and double trailers. She had the qualifications to drive anything in the state of Illinois. She actually had the highest qualification and license of all the people there. So, moral of that story is, don't pass up a woman because you think that they're not equal to what men should do. And anyhow, but she got in on several large fires. They were called in on one that was at well, you can't call it a dormitory. It was a two-story apartment building, and had a stairway at one end, a stairway at the other end, and the building was basically loaded with Asian people from China and other, Orientals, but China mainly. And from my personal knowledge of when playing Santa Claus, that my Chinese friend, the office partner, she wanted to go around all the Chinese and play Santa Claus. And my goodness, a one-room apartment would have, 10, 15 people living in it. So there was a lot of people. But at that fire, six Oriental people died of smoke inhalation because there was a fire built in both stairwells, and there was no exit available. There was quite a few speculations about who set the fire, but I don't think they ever did come up with the true one. The most likely one was a jilted lover who had a big political background, political family. But she was in the newspaper down there, and the lady firefighter. That was her firefighting career. And after leaving college, She didn't get in the fire department anymore, and I didn't get into the fire department because I was working well over what most students were, and the amount of credit hours plus working as a graduate assistant. But anyway, well, let's jump back to motorcycle riding. My wife and several of our wives in our group of guys in the little town we were living in, we guys started out with 125s and you know, the smaller bikes and dirt bikes. I had a 175 Honda SL 175 two-cylinder. You know, it was an on-road, off-road bike, and but anyway, that's what I started out with. And like I said, there was some 125 Hondas and 125 Kawasaki's and Yamahas and a couple of 250s in the group. And of course, after we guys got to really getting serious about riding dirt, hill climbing. You know, hill climbing. There was quite a few places around that you know, had become hill climbing meccas, I guess you'd say. So we got into that, and but of course, you know, if you got a 125, you dream about a 250, and so the second second year of riding, the 250s became very popular, and personally, I went up to an XL 350 Honda, big single-cylinder four-cycle, and the Yami hammers, as we called them, the cows, you know, for the Kawasaki's, and even one guy had a Jawa, and but we graduated. Of course, you know, nobody ever traded their bike in, so our wives took over the bikes that you know, we were riding the previous year, and which was kind of fun. You know, they enjoyed going with us, and you know, just having a good time, making the family outings, and on Sunday evenings, well, we'd you know, we would go to the pizza parlor, and we'd ride in there and have a big, you know, group get together. There'd be 25 or so people there, and all lined up, and the pizzas would fill the table and fill our stomachs. But so anyway, we took the wives up to a place that they had dug a lake, and they had dumped when they were hauling the dirt out. They had dumped it back in an area that like that. So as each load was dumped, it made a hump. You know, we called them the whoop-de-doos, because it was just like that. You ride up and down and up and down, and you know, and most of the wives got to ride in the whoop-de-doos. To get back there, you had to cross a big ditch. It was about probably 12 feet deep and 20, 25 feet wide, big ditch. And we took our wives' bikes in for them, and we crossed back over and rode their bikes through. And as they got brave, they started riding the whoop-de-doos, and you know, they really enjoyed it. It was, you know, it was kind of fun, you know, up and down and up and down, and like it. We got ready to go back out, and we got to the ditch, and the guys started taking their wives' bike across, and so I crossed over to the other side, and I told Estella, I said, well, you ride it across, you know. Oh, I said, well, you can ride it across. Just think of it is from the top of the whoopie-doo down to the bottom and back up the other side. And but she's a very brave person, very brave person. Even in her firefighting, they drug out an old style life net, and they wanted somebody to jump off from the ladder tower onto the net from probably 25 feet up. She did it. Nobody, no other guys would do it, so they were all holding the net. She jumped off. You know, very brave, very brave. She was never afraid of doing anything. Maybe you had to coax her, but she was always game for it. So anyway, she went down the side of that drainage ditch and just in perfect style. She started back up the other side, and she didn't get 5 or 6 feet up, and she killed a motorcycle. That 175 was an engine that was, you had to have the revs up on it. It had a horsepower range that you had to have it up at, 5,000 RPM to really make it, perform. And you had to have it neutral to kickstart it. So she duck walked it backwards, got down to the bottom, and she kick-started it. I said, now give it some throttle. Give it some throttle. And so she gave it some throttle, and she got a little further up there before she killed it. It died. And she duck walked it back down to the bottom, and she got it started. And I said, come on, give it some throttle. Wind it up. Then let's go. You'll come up. You'll make it up there. So she did. She wound it up, and she let the clutch out, and the front wheel come up in the air, and up that ditch bank she came, riding on the rear wheel just like a pro. I mean, it was a thing of beauty. Even the guys didn't ride a wheelie to the top. And when she got to the top, she forgot one major thing, and that was to let off on the throttle. Well, she still had it wound up when she went up over the top. The rear wheel come back down on the ground, and she's still in a wheelie, still had that wheel in the air, and here's a tree about yay big around, right in her path. Well, trees always have a rounded base on them that sticks out. Well, she hit that tree and wheel in the air, and the back wheel of that bike, that knobby tire, went to digging on that tree, and honest to goodness, it took bark off that tree up to about my head level, which would have been close to 6 feet. And all of a sudden the engine revved up, and here come the bike, just boom, fell down. She was on the ground laying on one leg underneath of it. And I thought, oh my God, she's killed herself, she's killed herself. And I went running over there, and she had a face shield on her helmet, and because we always rode with helmets. And I got over there, and I pulled the face shield off, and she was laughing. She was laughing. She could never understand why we guys could crash and burn, and laugh about it, come up with road rash, and come up with bruises, and etc., and be laughing about it. Well, here she was laying under that bike, one leg under that bike, and like that, and she's laughing. She suddenly understood why crashing and burning was funny. And what had happened to the bike? The chain broke. That's why what stopped her from going up the tree any further. The drive chain broke. But I always laughed that we might have had to have a ladder to get her out of that tree if the chain hadn't broke. But she learned what it was to crash and burn, and no burning to it, but oh, did she have bruises. The whole side of her leg was bruised, and you know, it wasn't comfortable for a week or better. But never stopped her from riding. Never stopped her from riding. Uh, we 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 were a motorcycle family. Uh, we bought a 750 Honda, and uh, we would load up on it, and I mean load up. Uh, my daughter, who was about 4 years old, would sit on the tank. I would sit on the front edge of the seat. Our son, who had been 7 years old, sat behind me, and Estella would be behind him with her back on the sissy bar, as it was called, and we'd go out and ride. And the kids, we always gave the kids the choice when we come to an intersection, left, right, or straight ahead. So we always knew we could get back where we were going from, but people see a family of four going down the road. I mean, you know, we we were looking like a group from other countries where they rode on that. But then our son later on worked for his grandpa at the gas station, and Grandpa bought him a Honda 175 or 125 street bike, and a little CB 125, and he started riding it, and you know, of course, he didn't have a driver's license. He was, I don't know, I'm gonna say he was 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, but he rode it. He'd ride it to school, and you know, as long as he didn't take anybody on it or do any stupid things, well, you know, it was overlooked. And then our daughter, she got to riding it, and one day we were going to a family, my wife's family's get together, and wasn't far away, you know, about 8 miles away, and Blacktop Road. After we got onto the Blacktop, we got almost a mile of gravel to get to hard road anywhere around here. But we got right where we were going to turn to go to the park, and it rained, and run into one of those little quick rains. And our daughter, when she was making the turn on the 125, the boy was on the 175, and my wife and I were on the 750. Daughter laid that 125 down. Got a burn on her inside of the calf of her leg, and it finally disappeared, I think, but she had a scar from it for quite a while, because that the chrome exhaust systems look pretty, but oh, do they burn. Paint it flat black, and it doesn't burn quite as much. But that was her big crash. But when she turned 16, she got a job 15 miles south at a taco place, and she'd ride that 125 to work during the summer. She really liked that. She worked the evenings, and the muffler on that thing had give up the ghost. It rotted out, so I just cut the pipe off in front of the muffler and tacked a washer onto the end of it, because the sound always travels on the outside on the inside of the outer diameter of the pipe. That's where the sound waves are at, and the washer, didn't really obstruct the exhaust, but it obstructed that sound wave. But we didn't have air conditioning in our home, and we lived up on the high part of the ground, and there was big long flats that used to be a swamp years ago before they drained it. But anyway, we could hear that little 125 singing its song, and she'd be, oh my goodness, she'd be 4 to 5 miles away coming across that flat. You could hear that sound of that 125, and could hear her when she got to the stop sign, and then hear her all the way to the house. So it was kind of our way of you know, having a little satisfaction that, you know, she's doing okay. And when we all went back to college, we stored that 125 away and stored the 175 away and stored my 350 and anyway, somebody stole them. You know, they broke in and stole them. So they disappeared. Did trade, had a 750 that I had for parts. They didn't steal it because it was sitting outside. And, you know, so that's a motorcycling thing. But not many men can say their wife tried to climb a tree with a motorcycle and was doing a successful job of it. But it really was, I can remember that, you know, picture that. In fact, I'm picturing it right now of her coming up that ditch bank, you know, for a really steep ditch bank, coming up that thing on the rear tire, and I don't think the front wheel was even turning, and you know, coming over the top, and probably 5 or 6 feet before the rear wheel came down, and then the front wheel didn't come down until it got to the tree, and it was already up in the air when it hit the tree. So all it had to do was the back wheel dig its way up. So, my wife, you know, got to be proud of her. One of the first Illinois certified women firefighters. You know, went through all the training, and you know, really enjoyed it, I think. And then, you know, crazy woman on a motorcycle. Of course, now she's a crazy woman with her Fiat 500 Sport. I'm not saying she drives hard and like that, but she's got 85,000 miles on it now. She's on her 3rd set of tires and 4th set of brakes. So she says she doesn't, but she drives like a wild woman. Which, at an addendum to that, we took a high-speed evasive handling course while we were at the college, and they had a skid pad and had the curb that you had to drop off of and back on at you know, 55, 60 mile an hour, and 8-inch curb. You know, and she did great at that. You know, she went through the skid pad. You'd go into the skid pad, and the instructor had a brake pedal that he could lock the rear brakes up on the car, and the back end would come swinging out. And anyway, he turned into the slide and controlled it, and you know, went on out. Well, a dummy. Yeah, that's what I have to say. We went in the skid pad. He had me going in a little faster than I think the others, and he locked up the rear brakes, and the back end of that, they had Dodges. They were police cars that had been in a train wreck and had been donated to the college, and without titles, brand new cars. But anyway, the back end kept coming around. I kept steering into the slide, and the back end just kept coming on around, so I just whipped the steering wheel around the other way and got on the throttle, and Oh my goodness gracious, that instructor, yeah, I said, well, I said, if you can't hold it, you can't get the slide under control. Uh, the best thing I thought the best thing to do is just to let it come on around and drive on out the direction you were going. Well, he made me go back and do it over again. and but Estella, they had one spot that you drove in a lane between these cones, probably 30 mile an hour, and then they had cone lanes. You could exit left or exit right, and the instructor would, at the last moment, would left, and you had to miss all the cones and drive out the left lane, or if he hollered right, you had to. She did that great. She's you know, the throwing the throwing the car around, going backwards at speed, and flipping the front end around and driving out the other direction. She did great at that, and so I got to be proud of her. She'll probably put me in danger with me telling stories about her, but you know, like I said, we'll in August, 23rd of August, we'll be entering our 60th year of being married. Uh, you know, it's we've had our ups, we've had our downs, we've had our lefts, we've had our rights, and but she's she's been a very loving, caring wife, and she is a great help for me now that I'm getting more immobile. Well, not immobile, but my mobility is being challenged. Um, you know, Standing up to take a shower, uh, which is something you can't find. We have called every concrete mason that we can find in the book, trying to get one to pour a shower floor, a 6 foot by 6 foot shower floor, to replace the garden tub that we can't get in and out of. And then her and I can line the walls with G-rib roofing to make the rest of the shower stall. But you can't find them. There, nobody. I mean, there's just no concrete masons that'll, or anybody that can pour a sloped cement floor. Pour the base cement and then put down the water impermeable material, and then pour the slope floor on top of it. Can't find them. It's just like what we're going to run into with these trees out here. As you can see on both sides of me, you can see the tops of the hickory trees down, and be many, probably several pickup truckloads of firewood with all the trees we have down around here, hickory and persimmon and oak and all the good firewood, but nobody seems to want to do it. It's too much work. Too much work. They want you to cut it up, and then they'll come and get it. So that's going to be out of the question. But anyway, we'll cut this one short. Again, I apologize for sitting here with my eyes closed. I relive these stories. I see the herd on that motorcycle. I see that quite often. Usually every time I see a motorcycle, and we've got a Kawasaki 125 up there that you can get running. It's an old one, and she gets very upset when I get it running and get on it and ride it around the yard. We've been trying to sell it, but nobody will pay what it's worth, because it's it'll be 50 years old in a couple of years. and it runs good when you get it running. So you know, she gets upset when she hears it and looks out and she sees me with the front wheel in the air a little bit. So you know, crazy old man, crazy old man. So as I say, don't take any wooden nickels. In fact, my uncle had the cabinet shop and he sliced up some dowel rod and had some stamps made and had his advertisement on one side, wooden nickel on the other side. So that was kind of neat. So, anyway, as I say, don't take any wooden nickels. Be careful, be safe. If you can't be safe, have fun. If you can't have fun, well, go back to being safe. Talk to you all later.